In this video, I would like to talk about the use of artificial intelligence in research writing. First, let us define what is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is integrated technology developed to mimic human intellectual capabilities. Artificial intelligence processing power is so huge that it creates instant, immediate computation and fast responses because of the vast number of links and connections and information fed into the system. The social media itself is a huge source feeding that enriches its natural language, slang, idioms, trends, and viewpoints. There is a vast or massive social media. It keeps enriching the artificial intelligence. In spite of the information it gathers or the artificial intelligence is fed with, it can make some errors and it may develop some hallucinations. It develops some hallucinations. Anyhow, definitely artificial intelligence has got advantages, and in the medical field, one of the advantages of artificial intelligence is significant improvement of the diagnostic accuracy in the X-ray departments. Small shadows in the CT scan will be differentiated in the scans of the lung, whether these are carcinomas or other types of benign tumors. Also in laboratories, in histopathology, and even in surgery, in autonomous controlled cameras in robotic surgery. Definitely it has advantages. Artificial intelligence helps personalizing treatment plans. We know if the treatment for a certain disease is 1, 2, 3, this treatment of 1, 2, 3 will not be applied for all patients. Some patients are elderly, some patients have heart disease, and some have chronic renal disease or chronic liver disease. So the treatment should be tailored to the patient and to have the best of the treatment. The artificial intelligence can help in personalizing the treatment plans. However, in research, it may act as a co-author. The artificial intelligence may create new ideas. Definitely it creates new ideas, and it generates outputs and modifies the final contents. So the artificial intelligence generates sentences or paraphrases the key arguments and changes the conclusions in a way that these conclusions may drift away from the research objectives. And here we should take care. objectives in one direction and the conclusion in another direction. Anyhow, the artificial intelligence paraphrase original findings, generate new insights, and make edits that affect the content accuracy. This is why it works like a co-author, as an active co-author. But these are the styles, in fact, in the artificial intelligence. And it will work also as a ghost author. We know the hypothesis of the research, interpretation of the findings, and the conclusion which should be driven from the data of the research, from the findings of the results. These three things should remain and must remain as human reserved functions. They are reserved for the human beings, not for technologies, interpretation, hypothesis of the research, and conclusion of the research. However, the artificial intelligence may make some changes, minimal changes in the hypothesis, drifting it away from the original hypothesis and hence from the objectives of the research, or it paraphrases the interpretations or the conclusions in a way that it become a ghost contributor in the research. In fact, there is nothing called co-author or ghost contributor. These are human functions. The ethical issues arise if the artificial intelligence makes structural changes, paragraphs or arguments, or large portions rewritten by the artificial intelligence with minimal human intervention, with minimal supervision, then there should be ethical issues. These things should be verified by the researcher team. If they were not verified by the researcher team, then ethical issues arise. The usage of artificial intelligence in research definitely refines the grammar, particularly for those whose mother tongue is not the language which is written in the text of the research. And the artificial intelligence ensures style consistency, so it makes everything bright and beautiful. However, it may help in literature review. Definitely it helps, but it makes errors in this point. And it may help in fine-tuning the methodology. And in this fine-tuning of the methodology, it might drift away from the original hypothesis and the objectives of the research. And the artificial intelligence may help in data analysis. However, this needs verification by an expert. And it may help in interpretation. And interpretation, as I said in the previous slide, is a human job, is a human function. And it will produce, in the data review, it will produce lots of citations. However, the artificial intelligence has lots of errors and fake citations. So take care. Artificial intelligence is a powerful technology for polishing the academic writing, particularly the grammar and these things. But it lacks precision, credibility, and integrity. And we will see in the coming slides how it lacks these three things: the precision, credibility, and integrity. The evidence that it lacks precision and credibility in the PubMed Central, and there is a study on the nephrology papers, the published papers in nephrology, when these papers used ChatGPT, they revealed that 68%, that is 2/3, have incorrect references, and 31% of the references were fabricated references, were not existing at all, and 7% of the references were incorrect. The evidence is this paper, which was published in the PubMed. You find it in the PubMed. It is examining validity of ChatGPT in identifying relevant nephrology literature, findings and implications, published in the Journal of Clinical Medicine in 2023. In another research on mental health, also published in the PubMed, the influence of topic familiarity and prompt specificity on citation fabrication in mental health, research using large language models, that is artificial intelligence, experimental study, also published last year in 2025. It found that almost half of the researches, that is 45.4% of the references, contained serious errors, either in the author names or in the journal titles or in the publication year or volumes or in the digital object identifiers. And almost 1/5 of the references, that is 19.9%, were not traceable, were completely fabricated, were not existing at all. So take care from artificial intelligence. And it has been described as a scandal, fadiha. The Springer Nature published a book under the title Mastering Machine Learning from Basics to Advanced. In fact, if one reads this book, will be a master of artificial intelligence, isn't it? But this was a scandal, and the book was removed from the shelves of the Springer Nature catalog, because 2/3 of the citations of the references were either did not exist at all or were inaccurate. And several researchers were contacted, and they denied completely that they had never authored the work attributed to them in that book. And this was expressed as classical artificial intelligence fabrication. Take care. Now, prevention or prevent the artificial intelligence from becoming a co-author. Maintain your human control in writing the research. You should be transparent, and you should give transparent declaration on each and every area you have used in the artificial intelligence, and the reasons why you have used it, and what were the outputs, and how did you interfere and made alterations in the artificial intelligence outputs. So you should have critical evaluation of the artificial intelligence generated contents. You should grasp your human nature and human control of your research, and do not allow the authorship to go to part of it to the artificial intelligence. In fact, the authorship guidelines in journals state that the use of artificial intelligence for support only and not for overshadowing your work. It should not be for overshadowing your work in the research. Now, let us speak about plagiarism. Plagiarism involves copying of somebody else's work or text without giving him or her acknowledgement for his or her work. This is plagiarism. Now you get a lot of material from the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence plagiarism is more dangerous. Artificial intelligence can produce complete sections of the manuscript, complete interpretation of the whole research or the thesis. The text is not stolen, because you are not stealing from somebody, but it is not original text. So take care from plagiarism. Reviewers in the journals, the journal reviewers, would correctly identify 2/3 of the ChatGPT written content. So, and even the consultants who review or will review the thesis of the registrars, also they have the capability to identify at least 2/3 of the ChatGPT written content. Usually the type of language written and the deviation from the hypothesis and the deviation from the objectives of the research means that there is some interference in the research. And in one article also in the PubMed, unfortunately, it stated that nearly 1/3 of the articles published in the artificial intelligence interference will be missed. The reviewers, as I said before, could correctly identify 2/3, 68% of the ChatGPT, but the remaining 1/3, that is 32%, will slip from them, will go for publication, but will be identified, and later will be retracted, later will be deleted, and the author will be red flagged. So take care. Now, let us speak about the medical journal policies, and there is some weakness in these policies also. the artificial intelligence, all the journals agree that cannot be listed as an author or co-author. But they permit most of the medical journals permit in their policies the use of artificial intelligence to improve the language, to support the language, to polish the language. But they need detailed disclosure. If you use artificial intelligence, you should write clearly a declaration of your use, disclosure for your use. You should state that you have used, what type of names artificial intelligence you have used, in which year it was introduced, that artificial intelligence, and mention the areas generated by the artificial intelligence and the reason why you used it. If you write a research in English language and it is not your mother tongue, it is a permission for you to use artificial intelligence to polish your written language. But you should mention that all generated suggestions were reviewed and validated and refined and focused to the research hypothesis and research objectives by the research team. You should write this and make it very clear that your research team has validated each and every input of the or output of the artificial intelligence, so that the final draft of your thesis or of your manuscript represent your human interpretation. We should make this clearly that all what is written reflects the precision and credibility and integrity of your research team. However, a small number of publishers impose strict banning. They refuse the use of generative artificial intelligence. You should first go to read the information for authors. If the publisher or the editor-in-chief write in the information for authors that they strictly ban or prohibit the use of generative artificial intelligence, and then no need for the disclosure. Otherwise, you should write a clear and transparent disclosure for the use of the artificial intelligence. Many publishers, they defer the policy of using artificial intelligence to the editors, to the editor-in-chief. So before your article goes for publication, a decision will be made regarding the use of or the extent of use of artificial intelligence in your article or in your thesis. And you should know that more than 10,000 papers which were previously published were retracted, were withdrawn, were removed only in 2023 only. In 1 year, more than 10,000 papers were removed, were cancelled, and 100 papers were found written completely by generative artificial intelligence. So take care. Things will be discovered 2/3 of the publishers, unfortunately, have no clear artificial intelligence policies. And here is one of the weaknesses that should be corrected in the future. Now, let us talk about the regulatory facts. For example, the Chinese journals usually require explicit, clear artificial intelligence use declarations, transparent declarations, in which area it was used and how did you interfere to modify it into human subject written part. The Europeans, in the Europeans Artificial Intelligence Act, they emphasized transparency, traceability, and risk classification. In their regulations, they require a transparent declaration in details, and even for the reviewers in the journals, they need to trace also where have they used artificial intelligence during their review. And also they classify the risk of the amount of artificial intelligence interference in the research, whether it is a high risk, moderate risk, or low risk. High risk means that the fact produced or published in that research contradict the reality and the real facts. This is a high risk, means you are cheating the scientific society by producing a wrong fact. And moderate risk, when by paraphrasing there is something wrong introduced, by the paraphrasing introduced by the artificial intelligence, meanings of facts were different from the real meaning or from the real facts, and the minor risk is that some linguistic errors and these things. What about the Americans? In the United States of America, there is no central policy for artificial intelligence. However, there is fragmented policies in the different institutions and for use by different publishers. So take care if you are sending for your work or your manuscript to any journal, first read the information to the author and the policy regarding the use of artificial intelligence. Now, as a regulatory function also, the COPE, the Committee on Publication Ethics, and the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, these are the topmost organizations. They declare that the artificial intelligence tools cannot be listed as authors or co-authors or whatever. And they cannot assume responsibility for the generated content. So who will be responsible? The author will be responsible, and probably those who invented the artificial intelligence might be responsible as well. But the journal editors and reviewers and publishers will be as well responsible. So some journals allow artificial intelligence in text editing and in the peer review. Peer review is a process for the journal, while some journals prohibit completely. They refuse the use entirely of artificial intelligence. Now, after all this argument, should artificial intelligence be banned? Should it be stopped? Should it be prohibited in research writing? No. The answer is no. Because it improves the written language, particularly for those whose written language is not the mother tongue language. And because if it is being banned, if it is refused, if it is prohibited, it will be pushed to be used in the dark, in the shadows. So it should be used but just to improve and to polish the language and the grammar and the expressions. Artificial intelligence can augment the research efficiency, but without oversight, without supervision, human supervision, it can erode the public trust. The public trust is the most important issue in the medical practice. The public trust is the origin for issuing all the ethical rules and regulations. The public trust, failing to address the artificial intelligence issues in research, failing to express it transparently, it will erode the public trust. The public and the scientific society will lose their trust on your writings, and you will lose your respect, and they will raise ethical concerns about the authorship. And the question that will remain, we are coming towards the end, when will artificial intelligence use will be considered as plagiarism, and who will be responsible? I think we have already touched this point, and now I will give some recommendations. These are my recommendations from the literature I have so far went through, and these recommendations does not belong to any council or any medical school or any institute. I would say that the researcher team should first read the journal Artificial Intelligence Policy and the information for authors of that journal, and they should abide themselves by the information given. Restrict the artificial intelligence in the language. This is allowed by most of the journals. Use it in polishing the written language. But you have the research team should verify all facts, all inputs, all outputs of the artificial, particularly the references. I have given evidence that lots of references are fake references, are just created references, fragmented pieces put into references which were not existing in reality. You should verify all these things. Add always a clearly written, transparently written artificial intelligence disclosure statement. And as I said before, you should mention what type of generative artificial intelligence you have used, and in what time, in which year it was introduced, and why you have used it, and you mention in which area, in which aspect of your research you have used it, and how your research team has interfered in correction and focusing the artificial intelligence outputs, and how you made these themes into human structure, preserving the precision of your thoughts and credibility of your research and integrity of your writing. Avoid the literature review generated by the artificial intelligence, or you go and verify this literature. Don't accept it as it is. And don't accept all the analysis. You take the analysis to an expert in statistics and verify and validate whatever is written there. And then the research team should come together for interpretation of each piece of fact, particularly when there is interference of artificial intelligence. Keep all your drafts, all your raw material, all your previous drafts, previous edits of your contributions and contributions of your colleagues. Keep them, and some journals might ask to send them these original drafts, or to send them the statistics generated by the SPSS or whatever. Protect your submission integrity and your scholarly records. Be transparent, verify artificial intelligence supported output, and retain full human accountability. Get professional editorial help from any journal. They will review the manuscript and they will tell you the areas of weaknesses, and then with your team you can sit, or with some other experts you can sit and correct these, and avoid being red flagged when you use too much of artificial intelligence in your work. To this point I come to the end. I hope you will get benefit of this talk, and I hope you will get benefit also from the artificial intelligence, particularly in perfecting your English language. Review the language itself, see why he paraphrased the sentences and the new meanings, and this will improve your English language as well. And see you in another video.